Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. So, we're going to take all 20 studio albums from Kiss, and we're going to compare the Paul songs versus the Gene songs and see which guy can come up the winner on the majority of the Kiss albums. So, this is the Paul versus Gene battle, I guess. And of course, this is just my opinion. I'm judging these based off of what I think of these tracks and what I think of these songs, and we'll see at the end which member comes out victorious. So, just to be upfront and clear, yeah, Paul Stanley is my favorite member of Kiss, so there may be a little bit of bias there, but I already know without thinking too hard that there's a few albums I think Gene has the better contribution on. So we're gonna see how many of these albums that Gene can actually steal away from Paul Stanley. So starting off with the very first Kiss album, released in 1974, Paul Stanley sings Strutter, Firehouse, and 100,000 Years. By the way, I'm not going to count songs that have both guys singing lead vocal. So let me know. Paul sings the bridge in that song, so I'm kind of counting that as a song where they both sing, so I'm not counting that. Kiss in Time has both Gene and Paul singing and Peter, so I'm not counting that. Love Theme from Kiss obviously has no lyrics, so I'm not counting that. And Peter sings the majority of Black Diamond, so I'm counting that as a Peter song. I am going to give Gene Nothing to Lose because he does sing the verses in that song. And Peter sings the chorus. I don't know. I do like the version on Unplugged better where Peter sings pretty much the whole thing. I don't know. I'll count it as Gene, but it's sort of a loose one, I guess. So Paul has Strutter, Paul has Firehouse, and 100,000 Years. Gene has Nothing to Lose, Cold Gin, Deuce. I gotta go Gene on this one, actually. I like Strutter. I like Firehouse. I love 100,000 Years. I like all these songs, really. But Cold Gin and Deuce are two of my favorites on the album. I think 100,000 Years probably is my favorite. But Deuce and Cold Gin are probably the next two. Not counting Black Diamond, of course, which is right up there. But that's, as I said, that's a Peter song. So I got to give that one to Gene. Plus, I think Paul has the weakest track, which would be Firehouse. So, yeah, Gene's going to win the first album. Next up is my favorite Kiss album, Hotter Than Hell. Also released in 1974. Gene sings half of this album. Paul only has 3 songs. Got to Choose, Hotter Than Hell, and Coming Home. I love all 3 of them. Gene sings Parasite, Going Blind, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, All the Way, and Watching You. I love all of them. I don't know. Both of them all have great songs. I mean, this album is all awesome. All killer, no filler. But just the fact that Gene sings half of it, and they're all good, they're all amazing tracks, I gotta give Hotter Than Hell to Gene. There's 2 in a row for Gene. Paul's got some catching up to do. Next up, we have Dressed to Kill, released in 1975. So Paul on this one sings Room Service, Rock Bottom, Come On and Love Me, Anything for My Baby, and Love Her All I Can. So Paul sings half of this album. Gene sings 4 tracks on here because Peter's only got 1 with Getaway. Gene sings Two-Timer, Ladies in Waiting, She, and Rock and Roll All Night. Okay, so Two-Timer is one of my favorites on here. It's kind of like an unsung hero song, in my opinion. Ladies in Waiting is my least favorite song. She is really good. Rock and Roll All Night is really good, though overplayed. Paul, on the other hand, I love Room Service. I love Rock Bottom. I like Come On and Love Me, but I don't like it as much as a lot of other people, I guess. Anything for My Baby, I kind of like. Love Her All I Can. This is a tough one, actually. Well, of the bunch, my favorite song on the album is Getaway. So neither one sing my favorite track on the album. But I think of the remaining tracks, Rock Bottom is my second favorite song. So Paul sings my favorite track, And then Gene Sings my least favorite track. So I guess for that reason, I'm going to have to give this one to Paul Stanley. So Paul Stanley wins Dressed to Kill. Next up, we have Destroyer, released in 1976. Paul Stanley sings Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Flaming Youth. They both sing on Shout It Out Loud, so we're not counting that one. And Do You Love Me? That is a murder's row right there because, I mean, Flaming Youth is the weak song of the bunch, and that's a pretty good weak song to have. Gene sings God of Thunder, Great Expectations, Sweet Pain. Great Expectations is the clear dud on the album. God of Thunder is Gene's best, and Paul wrote it. So, gosh, and Paul sings my two favorite songs on this album, which are also my two favorite Kiss songs of all time. Detroit Rock City and King of the Nighttime World. Throw in Flaming Youth and Do You Love Me. That's a pretty easy win for Paul on this one. So, Paul wins Destroyer. Next up, we have Rock and Roll Over. They're pretty much evenly matched on here. 4 songs apiece. Paul sings I Want You, Take Me, Mr. Speed, and Making Love. Gene sings Calling Dr. Love, Ladies Room, Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, See You in Your Dreams. Oh, boy. Calling Dr. Love is awesome. Ladies Room is pretty awesome. Love 'Em, Leave 'Em is my least favorite song on the album, but I don't dislike the song. And See You in Your Dreams is actually my favorite song on the album. Paul, on the other hand, has I Want You and Take Me, Mr. Speed, and Making Love. Man, oh man. This is a very evenly matched album, actually. Because Gene Sings my favorite and my least favorite song. And then Paul, on the other hand, man, this one's very evenly matched. This is the toughest one so far. Oh, boy. I guess when I think Rock and Roll Over, first of all, I think Ace Frehley, even though Ace doesn't write any of these songs, but Ace's guitar work is this. I mean, this is like Ace's guitar album in Kiss for me. Beyond that, I kind of think of Gene. Like, Gene's personality is just a little bit more overbearing on this one. Like, the way that he tackles some of these songs, like the way that he sings Calling Dr. Love, that very sort of demon-esque style, the over-the-topness of Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. Gosh, I think See You in Your Dreams is quite underrated. I don't know. I just think Gene on this one. So I'm feeling Gene. I'm going to give Gene the win. That is the most evenly matched one so far, though. But Gene's going to win Rock and Roll Over. Next up, we have Love Gun. Another one, they're very evenly matched on here. Both sing 4 songs. Paul has I Stole Your Love, Tomorrow and Tonight, Love Gun, and Then She Kissed Me. Gene sings Christine 16, Got Love for Sale, Almost Human, and Plaster Caster. So Paul's got like my 2 favorite songs on the album, I Stole Your Love and Love Gun. Not counting Shock Me, which would also be up there. Gene, my favorite Gene song is Plaster Caster, but I even probably like Tomorrow and Tonight a little bit better than that. So I think Paul wins this one pretty easily, even though he sings Then She Kissed Me, which I don't hate Then She Kissed Me. It is my least favorite Paul track, though. The Gene ones on here, like Christine 16 is one of my least favorites. Got Love for Sales, all right, but not one of my favorites. Almost Human, I've grown to like a little bit more over the years, but Plaster Caster is like my one real favorite on here. But I think Paul's songs are definitely stronger, so Paul's going to win Love Gun. Next up is Dynasty, released in 1979. In all honesty, Ace Frehley is the winner of this album, because Ace has my 2 favorite songs, plus Save Your Love, and then Peter has Dirty Livin'. So this is like the one album where I think Ace and Peter collectively outshine Paul and Gene. Paul's only got 3 songs, I Was Made for Loving You, Sure Know Something, and Magic Touch. Gene only has 2, Charisma and X-Ray Eyes. I gotta give it to Paul. I do like I Was Made for Loving You. I think Sure Knows Something would probably be enough to win this album for Paul over Gene, because I love that one. Magic Touch is really good as well. Charisma's all right, and I think X-Ray Eyes is kind of an underrated one, but I'm going to give this one to Paul. Basically, Sure Knows Something is what puts Paul's songs over the top for me, so Paul's going to win Dynasty. Next up, we have Unmasked, released in 1980. Paul Stanley sings Is That You, Shandy, What Makes the World Go Round, Tomorrow, and Easy as It Seems. That's kind of a mixed bag. Gene sings Talk to Me. Not Talk to Me. That's Ace. Gene sings Naked City. She's So European. And You're All That I Need. So he's only got 3. But that's a lot tighter of a group there. I mean, I think You're All I Need is the weak link of the pack there. But Naked City and She's So European are fairly strong tracks on here. Like I said with Paul, it's a mixed bag. I really like Is That You? I like Shandy. I'm not crazy about What Makes the World Go Round. I don't like Easy As It Seems. But I do love Tomorrow. Paul's really got a mixed bag. Gene's got a bit of a mixed bag too, but I think Gene's songs are a little top heavy, so Paul's songs are... man, I don't know. This is another tough one. It's not like Rock and Roll Over, where it's like, oh my gosh. It's like dead even. This one's... I don't know. This one's not quite as strong, but I think I'm going to lean Paul on this one, just because he does have more volume. So, I guess I'll give it to Paul. So, Paul's going to win this one here. Next up, we have music from The Elder. Alright, so Paul Stanley sings Just a Boy, Odyssey, The Oath, and they both sing I, so I'm not counting that one. Gene sings Only You, Under the Rose, A World Without Heroes, and Mr. Blackwell. That's actually pretty tough. I love Just a Boy. I think Odyssey's fine. It's not... I don't dislike it the way some people do. And I love The Oath. The Oath is amazing. Gene, on the other hand, Only You and Under the Rose are really great. A World Without Heroes is really good too. Mr. Blackwell is probably my least favorite of the bunch. I feel like Gene's really got a lot of the meat and potatoes on this one, even though The Oath is my favorite track of the bunch, and I really also like Just a Boy quite a bit as well. I don't know, just Gene seems to have a lot of the heavy lifting on this one with tracks like Only You and Under the Rose, A World Without Heroes, some really essential tracks on here, so my gut's telling me to go with Gene on this one, so I'm going to give the edge to Gene Simmons on Music from the Elder. Alright, next up we have Creatures of the Night. Paul sings 4 of these songs. Creatures of the Night, Keep Me Coming, Danger, and I Still Love You. Gene sings 5 songs. Saint and Sinner, Rock and Roll Hell, I Love It Loud, Killer, and War Machine. This one to me is a Gene album. I love Saint and Sinner. Rock and Roll Hell has grown on me over the years. I Love It Loud is my favorite track on the album. Killer has grown on me over the years. And of course, War Machine is incredible. Paul, on the other hand, I love Creatures of the Night. Keep Me Coming's okay. Danger's okay. And I Still Love You is my least favorite song on the album. So this is a pretty fairly decisive win for Gene. I gotta say, this is actually a much more even battle than I thought it would be up to this point. But we're approaching the 80s, and I think Paul's going to win a lot of these ones. So look it up. This is another 50-50 type album here. Paul sings 5, Gene sings 5. Paul has Exciter, Lick It Up, Give Me More, All Hell's Breaking Loose, and A Million to One. I love all of them. Gene sings Not for the Innocent, Young and Wasted, Fits Like a Glove, Dance All Over Your Face, and On the Eighth Day. I love most of them, and I like Dance All Over Your Face. So, I gotta go Paul just because Gene does sing my least favorite song, and Paul sings my favorite song. Otherwise, it's a fairly even battle. And this is the album, to me, that Paul's voice really starts to flourish. Paul's vocals are amazing in the Non-Makeup Era, in my opinion, and I think they really take flight on this one right here. Look it up. So I'm gonna give Paul Stanley this one. Next up is Animalize. This one's gonna be Paul Stanley pretty easily. Paul sings 5 to Gene's 4, but Paul's songs are almost the strongest 5. I've Had Enough, Into the Fire, Heaven's on Fire, Get All You Can Take, Under the Gun, and Thrills in the Night. Versus Burn Bitch Burn, which I gotta admit, I do actually kind of like that song. Lonely is the Hunter, While the City Sleeps, and Murder in High Heels. I actually don't dislike any of those Gene songs. As infamous as these tracks are, but Paul definitely has the advantage on this one. I think Paul's songs are top notch. Gene's are guilty pleasures, kinda. So Paul wins that one. Next up, we have Asylum. Paul sings 6 to Gene's 4. Paul has King of the Mountain, Who Wants to Be Lonely, I'm Alive, Tears Are Falling, Radar for Love, and All Night. Gene sings Any Way You Slice It, Trial by Fire, Love's a Deadly Weapon, and Secretly Cruel. This is probably the closest of these early non-makeup albums because I actually don't really have a problem with any of Gene's tracks on here. I think Any Way You Slice It's like my favorite song on the album, actually. I like Trial by Fire. I like Love's a Deadly Weapon. I like Secretly Cruel. I like all of Paul's songs as well. My least favorite song is actually a Paul song, which would be All Night. But Any Way You Slice It, Trial by Fire, Love's a Deadly Weapon, Secretly Cruel. Is that enough to knock off the other 6 Paul songs, or the other 5 Paul songs, aside from All Night? Radar for Love is probably my second least favorite on here. So, you know what? I'm going to give it to Gene. Gene gets Asylum. Next up, we have Crazy Nights. This one's going to be Paul. I mean, I'm not even going to, like, act like this is close. I don't really like any of the Gene songs on here, to be honest with you. Like, No, No, No. The guitar work at the beginning is cool, but otherwise, the song does nothing for me. Hell or High Water is forgettable. Good Girl Gone Bad's forgettable. Thief of the Night, And I love most of the Paul songs in here. I love Crazy, Crazy Nights. I'll Fight Hell or Hold You is really good. I love My Way. Yep, I do. Reason to Live, Turn on the Night. I even kind of like Bang Bang You. That's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. When Your Walls Come Down is so-so, but I actually like it better than the Gene song. So this is a clear win for Paul. Definitely Paul Stanley on that one. So there we go. Next up, we have Hot in the Shade, released in 1989. See, Eric Carr sings Little Caesar, so there's 14 tracks left. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the I think it's an even split. See, Paul's got Rise to It, Hide Your Heart, Read My Body, Forever, Silver Spoon, King of Hearts, and You Love Me to Hate You. Gene's got Betrayed, Prisoner of Love, Love's a Slap in the Face, Cadillac Dreams, Streets Giveth, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, Boomerang. So yeah, I think that's even. They both got a bit of a mixed bag here, don't they? I mean, with Paul, he's got Read My Body. Gene's got Streets Giveth, which I don't really care for. But I like Hide Your Heart from Paul. I like Prisoner of Love from Gene. I like Cadillac Dreams from Gene. I think Gene's got some really good underrated ones on here. I'm going to give it to Gene, actually. Gene. This really is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought Paul was going to be running away with it by now. All right, so next up we have Revenge. Gene Simmons sings Unholy. He sings most of Spit, but Paul does sing the bridge and Spit. So I'm going to count that as a kind of dual vocal song. God Gave Rock and Roll to You is both of them. So Gene's also got Domino, Thou Shalt Not, and Paralyzed. That's actually a pretty good group of songs there. Paul's got Take It Off, Tough Love, Heart of Chrome, Every Time I Look at You, and I Just Wanna. I guess you got to give it to Gene. He's got my 2 favorite tracks, and then Paul's got Every Time I Look at You, which I don't really care for. I guess I got to give another one to Gene. You know what? I'm starting to feel like Gene might actually be able to tie this thing up, or maybe even win. I don't know. I really thought Paul was going to be dominating this a lot more. Next up, we have Carnival of Souls. This one, see, Bruce sings I Walk Alone, so the remaining 11 songs, Gene sings Hate, Childhood's End, In My Head, Seduction of the Innocent, and I Confess. Paul sings Rain, Master and Slave, I Will Be There, Jungle, It Never Goes Away, and In the Mirror. Gene's got a bit of a mixed bag. I love Hate, I love Childhood's End. In My Head's okay. Seduction of the Innocent and I Confess are like my two least favorite songs. Paul's songs are all really good. Rain, Master and Slave, I Will Be There, Jungle, It Never Goes Away, In the Mirror. I think Paul wins this one. It's funny because you think of this kind of as more like a Gene album, but I think Paul's got the stronger batch of songs there. All right, Psycho Circus. This one here, Paul sings Psycho Circus, Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll, Raise Your Glasses, and Dreamin'. Gene sings Within, We Are One, and Journey of a Thousand Years. All right, so Paul's got Psycho Circus, Pledge of Allegiance. I like both of those. Raise Your Glasses is my favorite song on the album, and Dreamin' is my least favorite song on the album. Switch over to Gene, who's got Within, which I really like, We Are One, which is my second favorite track on the album, and Journey of a Thousand Years, which is kind of my most forgotten track on the album. Paul's got the one song on here aside from Peter's got a song here I don't like, but Paul's got the one song on here that we're counting that I really don't like. Gene's got a fairly solid bunch because I really like Within and We Are One, and then Journey of a Thousand Years is, I don't know, to me it's kind of like inconsequential. Paul's got Dreamin' to drag him down though. But you got Psycho Circus and I Pledge Allegiance and Raise Your Glasses. Man, oh man. This is a kind of a tough one actually. Gene. It comes down to Dreamin' for me, I guess, because I really dislike that song. Gene. All right, next up we have Sonic Boom. Paul sings Modern Day Delilah, Never Enough. Let's see, they both sing Stands, so Paul's got Dangerous and Say Yeah. I actually kind of like all of those songs. Gene's got Russian Roulette, Yes I Know, Hot and Cold, I'm an Animal. That's really close, actually, but Paul's got my two favorite songs on the album, Modern Day Delilah and Never Enough. And Say Yeah, that might be like my third favorite track. Third or fourth. I do like Russian Roulette quite a bit, though. I think Paul's are just slightly stronger than Gene's on here, so I gotta give Sonic Boom to Paul. Next up, last album, we got Monster. Paul sings Hell or Hallelujah, Freak, Shout Mercy, Long Way Down, and Last Chance. Gene sings Wall of Sound, Back to the Stone Age, Eat Your Heart Out, and The Devil Is Me. And of course, they both sing Take Me Down, so we're not counting that one. Or Take Me Down Below. Oh, man. Gene's got some really good ones. Wall of Sound is really good. Back to the Stone Age is really good. The Devil's Me is pretty good, but I can't stand Eat Your Heart Out. It's my least favorite song in here by a country mile. Paul, on the other hand, my least favorite track Paul sings is probably Shout Mercy, but I at least actually kind of like it. I love Hell or Hallelujah. I love Freak. I love Long Way Down. I've really grown to love Last Chance. I think Paul's got to win this one, so I'm giving Paul Stanley Monster. So let's tally this thing up now. Paul has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 versus Gene's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, that was close. That was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Paul Stanley has 11 and Gene has 9. I honestly thought Paul was going to win like 15-5 or something like that, but there you have it. Paul Stanley ekes it out over Gene with his 11 victories versus Gene's 9 victories. So let me know in the comments below how you would go with these Kiss albums. Which one would you give to Gene? Which one would you give to Paul? Play along in the comments because I'd like to see how you guys would do this as well. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future, and I will catch you next time.